Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Laura McLeod, and you're listening to the For Climate Out Loud podcast, where we cover the latest news from the world of environmental politics. In this episode, I'm going to focus on the US, where the news, I'm sorry to say, is pretty bleak. I apologize in advance for the doom and gloom, but we have to talk about what's happening. Before I begin, make sure to follow For Climate Out Loud on social media and hit that subscribe button so you can stay updated on the latest episodes. Thank you so much for listening. I want to start with the most immediate concern, and that is President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill, or whatever it's called. This is a sweeping bill full of Trump's legislative priorities, which the House recently passed after lengthy negotiations and some resistance. What this bill would essentially do is extend the tax cuts enacted by President Trump during his first term, increase funding for the border, deportation, and national defense priorities, cut Medicaid spending through, among other things, work requirements, which will result in millions of low-income people losing their coverage, increase the debt limit by $4 trillion, and, you guessed it, roll back green energy tax incentives. As discussed in previous episodes, until now, the Trump administration has been trying to dismantle government programs meant to address climate change by, for instance, unlawfully refusing to spend money that has been appropriated by Congress. Many of these efforts were challenged in court and are still under review. If passed, this mega bill would bypass this problem and allow the White House and its GOP allies to essentially make any spending changes they want. The largest target for cuts to climate spending is going to be the Inflation Reduction Act, the most important climate policy in history, signed into law by President Biden in 2022. As discussed in the first episode, the IRA entitled funding for a wide variety of programs in conservation, climate resilience, emission reduction, and green energy development. Among the more prominent programs that is going to be cut is the IRA's $7,500 tax credit for electric vehicle purchases. Not only do Republicans want to slash this program, they want to loosen auto emission standards, which will obviously contribute to more pollution and global warming. This is bad for the environment, but it's also bad for the economy. The global EV industry, particularly China's, is much more advanced than that of the US, and this at a time when demand and production for electric vehicles is on the rise. Another thing this bill would do is gut the Loan and Programs Office, a program within the Department of Energy that enables American firms that might not otherwise be able to find funding to develop new technologies and bring them to the market. Tesla, for example, is one such firm, having received a $465 million loan from the Loan Programs Office in 2010. The bill will also phase out tax credits for wind and solar development, as well as credits for things such as energy audits and heat pumps, which will result in higher energy costs for consumers. According to the nonpartisan think tank Energy Innovation, repealing the IRA would raise American household energy costs by more than $33 billion annually by 2035, compared to leaving the IRA in place. This equates to roughly $250 more per year per household. Projections by other analysts, such as Rhodium Group or Princeton University's Zero Lab, foresee even higher costs. But these are just some examples of programs that will be affected by Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. There are many more. Many are so small that they will most likely go unnoticed, but the consequences will not. If this bill makes it through the Senate, there will be little standing in the way of the administration defunding and deregulating the institutions and organizations that are supposed to combat climate change and keep the American people and the environment safe from pollution and global warming. Some of this is already happening. On May 29th, the Supreme Court ruled that federal agencies conducting environmental reviews can take a more limited view of the impacts of transportation and energy infrastructure projects they are permitting. The 8-0 ruling came after years of lower courts requiring broader evaluations of projects like, for example, liquefied natural gas export terminals and energy transportation projects to consider the climate impact of fossil fuels transported and burned through them. Environmental groups stated that the decision will affect the application of the National Environmental Policy Act, which mandates federal agencies to assess environmental impacts of government-funded projects through a detailed review process. Similarly, the Trump administration disclosed its intention to withdraw restrictions on greenhouse gas emissions and other airborne pollutants from the country's fossil fuel plants. This plan is part of the EPA's larger effort to roll back rules and policies, and if it goes through, it would eliminate limits on the second largest source of climate pollution in the US, the first being transportation. This announcement follows the executive orders Trump signed in April, which we discussed in the last episode, to allow older coal plants to keep operating by exempting them from federal pollution limits for 2 years and increasing coal mining on public lands. Environmental groups rightly argue that the proposal would be bad both for public health and for the climate. And as if all of this wasn't troubling enough, in yet another executive order signed in May, President Trump ordered what he called a restoration of a, quote, gold standard science across federal agencies and national labs. What does this mean? Good question. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that. But what it does is it places political appointees in charge of reviewing scientific research, allows them to amend scientific information, regulates how this information is communicated to the public, and grants them the authority to take disciplinary actions against those who do not align with the administration's views on science. The executive order prompted an open letter signed by more than 6,000 scientists, academics, physicians, researchers, and others, warning that it would destroy scientific independence. But that is exactly what this administration wants, the ability to discredit any information and data that might be at odds with its political agenda. That is not science. That's propaganda. This is where I leave you today. Hopefully I'll have some better news for you next time. But in the meantime, if you want to help me make a difference, drop a comment, hit like and subscribe, and follow for Climate Out Loud on social media. As always, thank you for listening. Until next time.